What's up, guys? So back with you pretty much as always. Thanks for everybody who hung out in the morning. This is going to be the Wednesday evening show because these college basketball cards or slates, I guess, are so insane on Tuesday and Wednesday. I just don't even have enough time in the morning. Maybe I should start earlier. Could do it at night, but I like the lines a little bit better in the morning, the way the market looks. You can still beat some of the lines, but still get more like info. Go check out my morning video if you want the information about the college basketball slate, the analysis of all the games that I have, my plays, etc. My plays, by the way, are Maryland minus 3.5, although that line I think is 4.5 now. But I do like Maryland. You can still lay the points or find money line ways of playing it, whatever you want. UIC, I think it was either 7.5 or 8 plus the points there, whichever line. Furman was minus 15.5, I believe, minus 15 maybe, something in that range. Seton Hall, I think, was either 7.5, 8, 8.5. I think those numbers are all over the place. So one of those numbers, hopefully it doesn't matter on these. So Seton Hall plus the points, Texas plus 3.5, Arizona State plus 4.5. And let's usually I look at the market read one more time. I mean, we could do that just to see because I will talk about a couple of the late college basketball games in a second. Mercer and East Tennessee State has kicked off already. What channel is that on? East Tennessee State. I'm going to put it on right now, baby. We got voice command over here. Yeah, this is what I do. This is the home base right here. Yeah, it looks like it's on ESPN Plus. There we go. So many games on ESPN Plus. Why not? Not the greatest game. I mean, East Tennessee State's definitely the better team, but I think they might be in not the greatest spot. So Maryland is up to 4.5. Like I said, 60% of the cash, 51% of the tickets. So that play looks good to me based on the market read. UIC looks good as well at plus 8, 7.5, whatever. It looks like it's down from 8 to 8 with reduced juice on Northern Iowa. 60% of the tickets and 51% of the cash on Northern Iowa. So that looks good to me as well. What are the other games I'm on? I don't even remember. Furman, they're actually down from minus 15.5 to minus 15 with juice. 69% of tickets, 70% of the cash. So, that's a game that the public probably isn't really coming in on much. So I wouldn't put as much stock into the ticket percentage. If the cash percentage is higher than the ticket percentage, that would basically tell me the market is in agreement with me on that one. Villanova Seton Hall was worrying me throughout the day, but Villanova still looks like you can get plus 8, 8.5 on this right now. It's up to 8 with juice, but 73% of tickets, 71% of the cash on Villanova. So that one is looking decent to me as well, as far as the cash percentage is concerned. And then we got Texas and Arkansas looks decent as well as that line. I don't know when it was ever 6. I don't really think it was, but it was 3.5, and now it's 3 even. If you want to take Texas plus 3, I think that's still fine. I think Arkansas should be... I think this game should be closer to a pick 'em, to be honest. I think Texas is the more motivated team. Again, go check out my video from this morning. 54% of the tickets and cash on Arkansas. But I think that's fine. And then I also have Arizona State. That line's up from 4 to 4.5 with juice. You can probably get 4.5 or maybe even 5 on that. 73% of tickets, 54% of the cash on BYU. So they're public as well. So all the cash percentages as it stands right now are in my favor. Let's talk about a few of these other games before I talk about... Well, usually I actually have the, I didn't have the schedule up there. Hang on. What is this doing, man? Come on, man. There we go. All right. Let me see. Yeah, so we got, let's see. I was going to talk about a few more of these games before I switch over to the other sports here. Just games that I either skipped or I just didn't have time in the morning. St. John's is at Butler at 9 p.m. on CBS Sports. Big game, but... This is an interesting one, man, because St. John's is coming off a couple of big wins here over UConn most recently. Actually, that was their one big win recently. Now, going to Butler on the road, not the easiest thing to do. Butler, they already beat them at home by 8. Butler's been playing a little bit better recently, so I think in this game you either take the points with Butler or you stay away, and it looks almost tempting to lay the points with St. John's in this game, man. Butler has actually won 4 of the last 5, although they haven't beaten anybody actually good. But even so, they have a little bit of momentum coming into this game. St. John's, they're playing for one of the high seeds right now. They're being discussed as like a 3 or 2 seed now by some of the analysts there. I think I have them as a 3 in my bracketology right now. So they might be feeling a little bit high on themselves after completing the season sweep of UConn. They're the returning champs and basically just season complete control of the Big East. 83% of tickets and only 68% of the cash on St. John's, down from 6.5 to 6. So that line does look kind of short. It looks easy to lay the points with St. John's. But St. John's, even though they play fast, they're more of a defensive team, so they can get into some lower scoring games, and that might serve well for taking the points at home with Butler. That would be the way I would lean in that game, but that's not a play for me. None of the rest of these games are going to be plays for me. I was just going to talk about a couple other ones. Utah State, Boise State is a big one at 10:30 p.m., getting into the degenerate hours late at night here on Fox Sports. These are two of the better teams in the Mountain West. Utah State is actually back atop the Mountain West because New Mexico lost to the same Boise State team. So maybe Utah State has a little bit of a reason to pay more attention here, but Utah State just beat San Diego State, and that's a pretty big win for them. I believe that was a season sweep of them. It was. So that's a big win for Utah State, man, and they already beat Boise at home, only by 2 points, though. So I could see this going both ways. They may be focused in this game on Boise, or they may be in a little bit of a hangover or letdown off of that win over San Diego State, having already beaten Boise. It's a tough call, man. Colorado State up next, but they did already beat Colorado State, too, so that's not a huge game for them. Boise might have a little bit more motivation here, too, though, because Utah State is more definitively in the tournament field right now. Boise is being listed as like a bubble team now. They're kind of in that mix there as like, oh, if they win this game, that would go a long way, basically. So, and they are at home, but they're coming off a couple of tough games against New Mexico where they won. I was on Boise in that game, and then I faded Boise in the next game at Nevada, and they still won the game in a tough spot, which I thought was a sandwich spot with this Utah State game coming up, and they'd already beaten Nevada once, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they did, by 10 at home, so pretty surprising to me that Nevada did not get that job done. I had them on the money line, I think, at home as just a straight-up, like, minus 110 pick 'em. Basically, I don't know how that happened, man. Boise lost that game. Shocking. Oh, I'm not logged into ESPN Plus. Isn't that just great over there? It's just sitting there. Yeah, whatever. ESPN. I can log into it later. Anyway, yeah, I would lean to Boise State in this game if I was going to play a side here. They're actually up from 3 to 4 here, so that line, it looks pretty easy to take the points with Utah State, man. I apologize for my congestion here. It's just crazy, man. It's bad every day, man. What can I say? It's the winter. It's a cold winter here, even though it's warming up a little bit the last couple of days. It looks too easy to take the points with Utah State, man. Taking 4 points with the team with the better record. Utah State is still the better team, but not by a whole lot. Boise State does have a pretty strong home court advantage. 60% of the cash is on them, and 51% of the tickets over on the Utah State side. So lean to Boise. And then San Francisco at Oregon State is the late game at 11 p.m. Eastern on CBS Sports. This game, I would lean to Oregon State, man. San Francisco, they're putting up a good season, but they have been significantly worse away from home. All 7 of their losses have come away from home, either on the road or in neutral site games. So that's not a great sign for them. They're going on the road to face Oregon State. And who do they have last in their final home game, final conference game of the season? They got Gonzaga, man, who's one of the teams that beat them. Gonzaga, of course, still really the class of this conference in the WCC, so that's a big game for them, man. That's an unavenged loss for them, where I think they did avenge their other losses. And speaking of getting revenge, Oregon State has revenge here because San Francisco already beat Oregon State by double digits at home. So I don't think this is a good spot for San Francisco. They're significantly worse on the road. And Oregon State, tough place to play, especially for these WCC teams who are not used to going there. Oregon State has a little bit of an extra home court advantage playing against these teams that basically have this unfamiliar travel spot having to go there. So that's big for them as well. They do have St. Mary's up next, so I don't think they're going to overlook senior night, their final home game in revenge against San Francisco. I like Oregon State here. They're actually up from 1 to 3 with juice now. So unfortunately, I should have meant, if I was able to mention these in the morning, you would have been able to get a better line on that, like maybe 2.5 probably. 64% of tickets, 83% of the cash. So the money is agreeing with me on that one too, coming in on Oregon State. But what can you do? NHL, I do have one play in the NHL. There are only 3 games in the NHL here. Winnipeg at Ottawa, and Winnipeg, not a huge favorite here, up from minus 130 to minus 149, 81% of tickets, 90% of the cash. So they're a public road favorite here. It does look like the money's coming in on them. It almost looks too easy to me, though, to lay a cheap price on Winnipeg. I mean, they've won every game coming out of the All-Star break, but against teams that aren't really that good, but now they're having to step up in class actually to face Ottawa after facing St. Louis and San Jose. Ottawa is actually a step up in class from those teams. Ottawa hasn't won since the All-Star break, so I think you're going to see a more motivated Ottawa team here. So I don't agree with the market move in this one. I would actually look to grab Ottawa as the home underdog in this one, or just leave it alone, which I am going to leave it alone. Winnipeg also played both those games into overtime, though, so you can see that going both ways. Like, maybe they're going to be a little bit tired, but maybe because those are close calls and games that they should have won more easily, maybe that'll motivate them a little bit. New Jersey is at Colorado, and this is probably the best of the games here tonight. Two pretty good teams from different conferences here. New Jersey coming out of the All-Star break. They are 1-1, I believe, after the All-Star break. Yeah, losing to Dallas and then shutting out Nashville and just smashing them. And that was with their backup goalie, Dawes, in there. So Allen will be back in net for New Jersey in this one. So they will have their better goaltender here. And they've had a couple of days off, so they're rested here. And it doesn't really break any momentum for them after one win over Nashville. Who cares? Colorado has not won a game, I believe, since the All-Star break, though. They went into the All-Star break with that win over Edmonton, and they haven't won since. They're losing both games to Nashville and St. Louis. So people are going to look at this and maybe think, oh, New Jersey's going to win this game because New Jersey just shut out Nashville. So they're easily going to beat Colorado. Colorado couldn't beat Nashville. I'm not sure that I agree with that. And yes, I know Colorado's returning home from a road trip, but it's only a 2-game road trip, and they actually have the same amount of rest. So a 2-game road trip I don't think is really much of a concern. I like to fade teams coming back from long road trips because they got stuff to do back at home. But these guys are just at home a couple of days ago, so it's not as big a deal. Colorado had bad performances against bad teams, really, in both those. Nashville, I keep saying they're not as bad as they look, but their record is still really bad. Colorado only putting up 1 goal in each of those games and blowing my first bet out of the All-Star break on that against St. Louis there. So I think they're more in the bounce-back spot here, even though New Jersey is going to have their rested primary goalie here. But both teams have a decent amount of rest. You're going to get both starting goalies here. I assume Blackwood will play again for Colorado here would be my guess. I would lean to Colorado in this one. They're up from -130 to -139. 65% of tickets, 79% of the cash. So the money is coming in on them. I agree with that. And then Vancouver, LA, I'm actually kind of fading where we see the money coming in right now, but I do think we're fading the public here, and I'm going to take Vancouver, as I mentioned this morning, either +158 or whatever the money line is. You can just fire on the money line, or if you want to be a little bit more risk-averse, you can split the bet half and half, and it seems like it's not more risk-averse, but it is if you split the bet between the puck line and the money line, because you're actually paying, even though you're paying more for the puck line, that one is the more likely one to hit. They're more likely to come within a goal, so it'd be +1.5 goals at like -170. You do have to lay -170 for that. You could put like half the bet on that, basically, to win half of the money, basically, and then put the other half, or to win the other half on the underdog money line price. And then the way it evens out is it actually becomes just a slight winning bet if they lose by 1 or win the game. And of course, if they win the game, of course, you're going to win the whole thing. So, or you could just fire straight up on the money line, which may be the way that I'm playing this here. I just haven't even played this one yet, but I'm going to, just because the market looked like it was just public money's going to come in on the Kings, and that is the case. They're up from -165 to -172, 79% of tickets, 81% of the cash. So it does look like the cash percentage is on them, but I don't know that that's going to be the case when this game happens, which this is actually the only TV game on TNT. The others are on ESPN Plus, because everything's on ESPN Plus. These guys get the TNT game. I think this is a sandwich spot the Kings are in, man. They just beat Vegas. So coming out of the break, they beat Utah and Vegas. They're 2-0 coming out of the break, staying at home. I think they might just be kind of basking in it. And after they play Vancouver, who's not playing well at all right now, they got to start a road trip and go to Dallas. That's a big game, man. Even though they did just beat Dallas recently, Vegas and Dallas are opponents that are going to draw more of your attention than Vancouver is at this one. Vancouver hasn't played that well. They beat Vancouver on the road 5-1 the last time they played them on January 16th. So a little bit of somewhat recent revenge there on the side of Vancouver as well. And if you look at Vancouver, part of the reason why I like this is Vancouver played the same 2 opponents out of the All-Star break, and they lost to both of them, Vegas and Utah. And they actually have an extra day off, even though they are traveling out of elevation down to LA. I mean, yeah, but they have 2 days off, whereas, LA only has 1 day off, even though they aren't traveling. So that's kind of a I think that all just kind of evens out for the most part. But Vancouver, having lost both games to those same teams, including the last one, losing to Utah, and only scoring 1 goal in each of them, I think they're going to be focused, man. I think they're going to be focused on trying to fix things on offense. You're probably going to see Lankinen back in net here. Maybe he was rusty coming out of that break, lost to Vegas. They had Silovs in net in that other game, which he's not even their second string goalie, really. I don't know what's going on with Demko. Unless, I don't even know, actually. Was he traded or something? I don't even know what's going on there, man. But Lankinen should be back in net here, so we should at least get the top goalie for Vancouver back in net here. Vancouver's got to be motivated after those 2 losses, man, especially an ugly loss to Utah. I think they're going to want to try to salvage something here, get a win during this road trip here, and the public is only going to go one way on this, and they're going to go LA, even though it's a little bit more of a price, because LA just beat Vegas and Utah, and Vancouver lost to both of them, so it seems so obvious, right? You take LA, but I don't think that's the case. LA, I think, is in the much more, they're in a spot where they're much more likely to be unfocused, let's say. So I like Vancouver for all those reasons here, and then I already showed you for the Kings, it's a sandwich spot, man. I was just looking to see who their goalie's going to be in this one. Kemper did play the last 2 games, so I don't actually know if you're going to get him or if you're going to get Rittich. Sometimes they put Rittich in after a couple. Kemper is their better goalie, but I don't know that it really matters that much. It is a sandwich spot. I will be on the Vancouver Canucks as much as I don't like them. And then we got NBA before I get out of here. First game up is the game that I'm on, Boston and Detroit. I'm going to play Detroit plus 4.5, or it might be 5. I don't like the spot for Boston. Let me see. What do we got here? And you got to pay attention to what the personnel is going to be as well. Celtics were a 7-point favorite. I don't know if they ever were. It's down to 5 with reduced juice. I think it's mostly 4.5s out there, though, but they're public. Of course, this line looks really short, and why wouldn't you? If you're a public bettor, why wouldn't you lay the points with the Celtics? It looks so easy to do that. Even though both of these teams are hot right now, it's the Celtics. I mean, everybody knows they're the better team. 68% of tickets, 57% of the cash on them, so they're public with less of the cash on them. I agree with fading them in this spot, man. The Celtics have no rest here. It's a quick turnaround with travel. 3rd road game in 4 games. They just played in Toronto last night, and I thought maybe it wouldn't be the best spot for them, although I don't think they covered. I think they were double-digit favorite, and they only won by 10 only. So they haven't lost since the All-Star break. They've come out of the All-Star break roaring. But again, they're playing a 3rd road game in the last 4 games, and they're playing a 4th game in 6 days with 3 of them on the road. So that's not a great spot either. It's a back-to-back. It's a 3rd game in 4 days. Actually, sorry, there's one other extra day of rest in there. Excuse me. So it's a 4th game in 7 days. Excuse me. But it is a 3rd in 4 days, which is not good. But on top of all that, after they might also be feeling kind of high on themselves from beating the Knicks again, where the Knicks, are right behind the Celtics, even though, yes, the Celtics are taking Eastern Conference teams seriously. The Celtics are trying to play for that seeding, but I just don't think this is a good spot at all, man. And speaking of taking Eastern Conference seriously, who do they have next? They got the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they're the only team, obviously, that's ahead of the Celtics record-wise right now. And I believe that's a rubber match, too. I believe the teams are 1-1 against each other. Is that right? No, Celtics won at home, beat them on the road. I think the Celtics are 2-1 against them. My mistake. But still, that's a big game. That's at Boston. That's coming up in 2 days on Friday. It's a huge ESPN game. So the Celtics are in a back-to-back, and it's a look ahead. I don't like this. And again, you got to look who's playing for the Celtics. I think it's possible that Porzingis isn't going to be playing in this game. Well, he's not listed on the injury report, but now Jaylen Brown is actually out, and Luke Cornett is out, so that's a little bit of the big man depth there for the Celtics isn't going to be there, but Jaylen Brown being out. But, of course, the Celtics, that's not even going to drop the line that much for the Celtics because the Celtics are so stacked. It's not even going to matter that much. But Jaylen Brown, he's probably just being rested to prepare for that Cleveland game. I like Detroit in this one, man. I think Detroit's definitely going to be focused. Both teams have momentum here, but this is just a bad spot for the Celtics. Pistons have better rest here. You know the Pistons are going to be gunning to try to beat the Celtics, and the Pistons have given the Celtics some problems over the last couple of years, even when the Pistons weren't that good. They played the Celtics pretty decently. I don't know what they've done this year, though, but the Pistons, I believe they should basically have all of their guys playing. Cade Cunningham will be playing. I mean, he's the star of the show here. They did just get a big win over the LA Clippers. They came out of the All-Star break. They went in hot, and they came out hot, winning at San Antonio on the road. But again, that was a bad spot for San Antonio. The second game without Wemba on a back-to-back there. So Detroit came in and beat them. I think it was a back-to-back for them. I forget. Then Detroit had to go to Atlanta. I mean, not the easiest thing, and they just won in this ridiculous barn burner. Came back home, and they didn't suffer. That was a spot where it looked like you might think Detroit wouldn't be in the best spot there, right? Because they're returning home from that little bit of a road trip. It's a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, and with Boston and Denver up next, you would think that would be a bit of a look-ahead spot. They're not a great spot, but they didn't overlook LA, so that shows me Detroit is playing with focus right now. They beat LA as well. Now they have a day off, whereas Boston doesn't. Celtics are having to travel, even though it's only from Toronto to Detroit. Not a huge travel situation, but still Detroit has no travel and the extra day of rest here. I like Detroit, man. I don't know what these teams have done this year. Detroit lost by 10 at Boston, and then they did get destroyed by 24 at Boston the other time. So, and at home, they only lost them by 6. So in 2 of the 3 games, including the home game, they've been pretty competitive here. So give me Detroit, man, for all those reasons. I think it is a major look-ahead spot. I've heard some professional bettors kind of disagreeing with that, but I don't know. And I did say I thought some professional bettors were on Houston the other night, by the way, in college basketball, but some were actually on Texas Tech, too, and I didn't even realize that. But whatever the case is, are we going to talk about any of these other games? Most of these games are just crap, dude. Oklahoma City, I don't like the spot that they're in, man. They're coming off playing, I believe, 2 games in a row against the T-Wolves, including losing that one in overtime. And I want to fade the T-Wolves in their next game, which might be tomorrow. So you can look out for that. I'm probably going to be fading the T-Wolves because this game was absurd. Oklahoma City was blowing them out of the building, man. They were winning by almost 30 points with 4.5 minutes left in the third quarter, basically, winning by whatever that is, 24 points. And then they still had a lead by almost 20 midway through the fourth quarter. And then I don't know what happened. And Minnesota came all the way back, sent it into overtime, and beat them in overtime. Just absolutely insane. I don't know how Oklahoma City collapsed like that. But again, it was like a quick turnaround revenge spot, like a zigzag spot for Minnesota there. So there was that at least. But Oklahoma City, after 2 big games like that against Minnesota and the way they blew that game, I think they might not be in the best spot here. They are starting a road trip, though, going out there. So sometimes you are focused to start a road trip. They don't have a bigger game next, but I don't know that they're really going to be totally focused on the Brooklyn Nets. And the Nets, I believe, just lost to Washington, which is just a miserable loss. And I told you it was a bad spot. They had just beaten Philadelphia as a huge underdog. Second straight road game with OKC up next. I said it was a sandwich spot. I kind of wish I played it. It was almost a play for me, and Washington beat them. So now Brooklyn's coming off losing to basically the worst team in the NBA. So you got to think Brooklyn will show up focused for this. So it is a spot where I would grab the points with the Nets or not play the game. It's up from 14.5 to 16.5 with juice, maybe 17. Just ridiculous number. Laying those points on the road, just an absolutely insane number. 60% of tickets, 71% of the cash on the Thunder. That line is so high, especially in a spot like that. It would be take the points or pass. Charles, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out again. And then we got, let's see, Hawks and Heat. This is a zigzag spot, which is why I pointed out the Hawks just beat the Heat, which was the first win for the Hawks out of the All-Star break. And they kind of embarrassed the Heat, man. I mean, the Heat, without Jimmy Butler, I mean, you know their offense is going to struggle a little bit, but scoring only 86 points against a pretty bad Hawks defense, that's just pretty pathetic, man. And the Hawks were only like a 2-point favorite in that game. Now the Hawks have to go to Miami. So I think it is a spot where you do look for the zigzag here. I would lay the points with Miami in this one if I was going to play this. Miami, let me see. They're down from 4.5 to 3. Excuse me. So the line has actually dropped a little bit. And that might be because of the Bam Adebayo situation, because I know he was questionable. The line dropping on Miami probably means he's out. Let me see. He's not listed, or no, wait, yeah, there he is. Sorry, I was looking at Atlanta. He's still a game-time decision, but I think the way that line is moved probably indicates that Adebayo is out, but I would still lean to the Heat or not play the game, and I'm not playing it, but 75% of tickets, 83% of the cash on the Heat, so the cash percentage is coming in on them. And again, I think the line moved because of the Adebayo situation. I mean, obviously, he makes the Heat a better team, but you'll get a little bit of a discount playing the Heat without him. And the Hawks, I mean, the Hawks defense is terrible, dude. Like, Miami had some of the worst offensive numbers in that game that we've seen in like quite a while, to be honest. So it's just crazy. So yeah, it would be Heat or you don't play the game, man. And then San Antonio is at Houston in the night ESPN game, which I think when they scheduled this, they probably thought Wemba was going to be there for San Antonio, man. No Wemby in this game. Houston is a pretty good team. San Antonio, not a great team without Wemba. Let's just say that. I mean, they won that first game without him. They haven't won since, and not losing to great competition either. Detroit and New Orleans. Detroit's okay. New Orleans, very much a struggling team with a lot of injury problems going on that team. San Antonio, it's a third straight road game for them, so that's pretty difficult, even though it's all in the same geographic area, basically. New Orleans to Houston, not a huge travel spot, but you would have thought that San Antonio would have bounced back in a zigzag spot there, and they still didn't get it done, even though they played a lot better in that second game against New Orleans than the first game. But now they're on a third game in 4 days, all on the road and back-to-back, going to Houston. It doesn't look like a great spot, really, for San Antonio, man. I think they're just struggling right now. Houston is coming off a big win over Milwaukee yesterday, though, so I don't know if the spot is necessarily good for them either, and they might overlook San Antonio a little bit here with no Wemba, with Sacramento up next, who, of course, is the team that traded with San Antonio. So they're playing San Antonio, who now has De'Aaron Fox, and then Sacramento, who doesn't have him anymore, and they have Zach LaVine now, and I forget who else they got in that trade, and then OKC after that, so Houston isn't in the greatest spot either, so I don't know what to think about this game. I'm just talking about it because it's kind of a big game on ESPN. Rockets down from 9 to 8.5, 57% of tickets, 50% of the cash on them, so the money is actually coming in on the Spurs side there based on the market read there. So the market read actually says to take the points of San Antonio. I don't know what I would do with that, but that's going to do it, man. I mean, that's just my analysis there. Yeah, skip it is right. I guess I would lean with the market in that one. That would be the clinching factor for me to take the points of San Antonio, but both teams are kind of in bad spots there. Once again, thanks for hanging out, guys. My plays tonight, bunch of college basketball. Maryland minus 3.5, although, like I said, that line's a little bit up. UIC, Illinois, Chicago, plus 8 or 7.5, whatever number you can get. Furman, minus 15 or 15.5. Again, whatever number you can get. I don't think there's that much of a difference there. Seton Hall, plus 8, or it might be 8.5 now. Texas, plus 3.5, or I guess 3. Arizona State, plus 4.5. NHL, we got the Vancouver Canucks, plus 158. And NBA, Detroit Pistons, plus 4.5. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Toad, once again. Follow me on Twitter, baby, as always. And join me in a few hours for the Tower Gang podcast, the most offensive podcast on the planet, man. We're back on YouTube for streaming. We're streaming to Rumble. You can find us. I mean, we stream to Twitter or X if you really want to watch it there. I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend Rumble or YouTube, obviously. But go check us out. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Tower Gang. You get extra content from us every week. More Tower Gang and even more offensive Tower Gang. Once we go behind the paywall, it's even more balls to the wall, anything goes, man. And you get the live pre-show, which is mostly us arguing about what we're about to do and about setup and stuff. So it's a lot of business and bitching. That's going to do it, man. Tower Gang forever, obviously. Yes, sir. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, man. You too, if you're playing any games tonight. Good luck to everybody on their plays. That's going to do it. Peace out, guys.